Senator Testa, welcome to the Daily Social Distancing Show.
It's great to be with you virtually.
You are one of the most interesting politicians in America because you are an organic farmer, a seasoned butcher, and you are the senator of a deeply red state. You voted against Neil Gorsuch. You have stood up to many of Donald Trump's decisions, and yet people still vote for you. So are you a sign that America isn't as polarized as people think, or is your winning an exception to the rule?
Look, I think the country is more polarized than it's ever been, certainly in my 64 years on this earth. But I still think we have far more in common than we have differences. And I think that the key is to bring people together. And that's not something that Donald Trump has done. He tends to divide us a lot more than bring us together. But the truth is I think if we come together and we have good, honest conversations and we have a good debate and we compromise, we can come up with solutions. And by the way, that's the way it's worked from the beginning of time in this nation. It's what made us the greatest country on earth. And we can do it again.
Okay, let's put that to the test. One of the biggest problems America is facing right now is the coronavirus, and specifically what to do with schools. You are in a unique position where you're not just a lawmaker, but you are a former teacher who, was a member of the school board. So you've been in the trenches. What do you think America needs to do with regards to opening the schools, the when and the how?
Look, in my small town, what I would have recommended if I was on the school board is that we use every facility that we could to social distance those kids and keep those teachers safe and keep those kids safe. I'm talking about using everything from community halls to church basements to every meeting place there is. Now, I know it's going to cost a few more bucks to get it clean and make sure it's safe, but the truth is that I think, things like wearing masks and being socially distanced are things that really can help stop the spread of this virus. And I think that if I was a parent, school board member, teacher, even a student, I'd be saying, hey, let's look how we can best socially distance. And I think that's really the key. I don't agree in stopping school, and I think people need to get back to a normal way of life. But we need to let science be our guide, and I think that's what is critically important.
Your book is entitled Grounded, A Senator's Lessons on Winning Back Rural America. And it's really interesting that you say winning back rural America. Do you feel that Democrats have lost white rural voters, and how do you think they can begin winning them back?
When I was growing up, the area I live in, north central Montana, had a whole heck of a lot of Democrats in it. That started disappearing in the 70s and continued in the 80s and 90s, and now there's not many Democrats left in it. The fact is we need to listen. We've got big issues out there, Trevor. You know that. I mean, issues around climate change and healthcare, and the fact is that we can bring everybody along if in fact we talk to them and listen to them and find that common ground. Look, I think the reason climate change, for example, is so very, very difficult in my area, in my town, is because people are afraid that any changes we might make might put them out of business. So let's talk about changes we can make that will make their business better and not put them out of business.
As an experienced farmer, you yourself have conceded the fact that Donald Trump has done a good job of making farmers believe that he is on their side. Recently, you filibustered the COVID bill that would have allocated $20 billion to help farmers. And as a farmer, it feels like you would have a really soft spot in your heart for all farmers who are struggling through this period.
Farmers are very, very important. Trust me, I'm one of them. We work at Feeding the World. That is a fact. But the truth is, it has to be much more comprehensive than that if we're going to get a bill to pass that actually helps turn this economy around, not only for farmers, but for everybody, for working folks, for small businesses, the whole thing. Every bill you work on has positive and negative things to it. The problem with the one that we voted down or filibustered last week was there just wasn't much there. There was a little bit of there for farmers, but the truth is that there needs to be more. This is a big deal, this COVID-19, and our economy is suffering greatly for it. And it's not just agriculture, by the way. Hospitality sector and other sectors are getting pounded. And the other thing I would point out to farmers is that we need somebody that knows how to get trade policies that work. Without exports, farmers are dead in the water. And long before COVID came, the President of the United States was in trade wars that really hurt production agriculture, both grains and pulses and livestock beef and pork. So we've got a lot more work to do to help out the family farms in this nation.
One last question. When you look at the upcoming election, it is no secret that Joe Biden's biggest challenge is going to be wrestling those voters who maybe voted for Obama and then moved to Trump and are now in some ways up in the air. As a politician who many see as a DC outsider, the man who they say pays $11 for his flat top and no more than that, what advice would you give to the Biden campaign on how to communicate with bringing some of these voters back into the fold?
It's pretty straightforward. Be honest, be authentic, and show up. I know Joe Biden. Joe Biden is straight up. He's a working class guy. He wasn't born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He's worked for everything he's got. He needs to tell that story to rural America. And if he tells them and looks them in the eye when he says it, I think he'll get a lot more votes than our previous candidate did.
Senator Testa, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you, Trevor. Thank you.